Let's go ahead and record this and give everyone a few minutes, and then we'll get started. Maybe I should pull up Facebook. There we go. Now we got a whole bunch of distracting screens on here. So I'll be toggling back and forth between my notes and everything, but let's get after it. Let me go ahead and share my screen here. There we go. Okay, let's do this. Hello there. You might be watching this in the future, or you might be watching this right now, or you might be showing up late, right? So who am I? My name is Brandon Wilton, founder, one of the owners here at CrossFit South Bend. We've been doing this for around 15 years or so. I believe I always get that number wrong, somewhere between 15, 16, something like that, right? And what do I do? Well, I'm a coach. I am a mentor for some of my coaches here. I am a CEO within the business. I'm a father, so on and so forth. So I'm, a few things. And why are we doing this? Why are we doing Facebook Lives? Well, this is the first one. So expect all kinds of glitches. Expect, not everything to go perfectly, but why am I doing this? One of our core values here at CrossFit South Bend is to help. And obviously, you have to take care of yourself before you can take care of, people within your immediate vicinity. And then, you can expand out from there. And I think over the last 15 years we've been open, we've gotten to that point where we're trying to figure out, how can fitness be more accessible to everyone in the area? Fitness knowledge, Q&A, coaching, stuff like that. If someone can't take advantage of our services, right? I think the least we can do is start having conversations. And I think that's a really good place to set a foundation, is on just opening up conversations, or at least, in this case, this might be a one-sided conversation because, again, I need to figure out how I'm going to get chat windows open and all that stuff, especially when I'm screen sharing on this. So yeah, values. By the way, if you drop questions in a chat or otherwise, I'm most likely, till I get this organized, not going to be able to see it, but I will answer them afterwards. So go through, ask questions, or you can, I'll send you some stuff afterwards and we can kind of go from there. But values. We're going to go over kind of what they are, why they are important, what are the consequences of not knowing them, and then some questions to help determine values. I put that downloadable piece out not too long ago. And then as I was timing this, realized it worked best for a couple different calls. So the next call, and if you're in the group, you'll see that come up. We'll talk about how they sit within behavior change and how values can limit you in certain ways. What do you do when there's a misalignment, either between the goals or the values? The job of the coach with all of this as well, too. So values are your deeply held beliefs. They are a part of you. They just are. They serve as guiding principles for you. And those can be like conscious or unconscious. Very often, many people go through their lives unaware of what their true motives are. And they're the bedrock which perceptions and consequently decisions and behavior are built. If you saw that post not too long ago of the kind of feedback loop there that I'll go over. So, some examples, personal, health and well-being, family and relationships, personal growth, freedom, social, community, equality, respect, compassion, professional, achievement, responsibility, efficiency, collaboration, spiritual, faith, purpose, gratitude, mindfulness. Okay. We can kind of go on and on, but those are a few examples of some values that you may have heard a few. And if you, if you did that values drill that I put out, the questions, and you came up with some of your values, I'd be curious if you'd send them to me afterwards. So why knowing your values is important. The first thing is self-understanding. So there's a lot of benefits to understanding yourself, knowing what drives your behavior, what makes you tick. It's super helpful in picking actions that you'll enjoy and that you'll actually stick with. It's kind of like knowing your favorite music. And once you know your favorite music, you can pick something that you enjoy. Decision-making. So when you're at a crossroads with making decisions, you can use your values to guide you. Whether it's a big decision or planning what you're doing with your tiny day-to-day tasks, being aware of why you're making one choice over another through the lens of those values will typically lead to long-term satisfaction, not short-term satisfaction where a lot of people kind of get stuck in. And overall, eventually, if you're leaning toward long-term satisfaction, less regret, right? Consistency. So if you're clear with what your values are, you'll be able to maintain consistency in your actions and your decisions. So you've got a recipe and you know what ingredients go into that recipe to make it taste the same every time. If I say that this is the type of person that I am or I aspire to be, and these are the actions that that person would make, boom, done. You can start to be very consistent with knowing who you are, what you stand for, or aspirationally what you're looking for, and you can replicate those actions again and again and again. And it's a really good opportunity for just self-growth in that, like, oh, would that person make these decisions, right? And you can start to flesh out what this ideal version of yourself is, right? People talk about their best self, right? Motivation. Values act as a natural intrinsic motivator. So you're not relying on like an unreliable outside source to motivate you. Okay. And I say unreliable, but an example of this, we do get this a lot where I get people that say, I need you to motivate me. That's fantastic. Great. But I can't do it forever. And here's what that looks like, right? If you've got kids out there, teaching a baby to walk, it's I'm going to be holding both of your hands and you're going to be stumbling a little, and then I'm going to let go of one hand and you're still going to stumble. I'll let go of the other hand and you'll fall down a few times and eventually we'll distance and then you're walking. But if you always expect some external source to motivate you, then what are you going to do when that coach isn't present anymore, or that person isn't forcing you to do something, right? It's far more valuable finding out what your values are and how those are aligned and how it's important relative to your values to get that intrinsic motivation. So, like I said, when your actions align with those values, you don't need an external push to keep going. Authenticity. When you're true to your values, you're authentic. People can sense that. They can sniff that stuff out, and it builds trust. It's like wearing clothes that you like. You feel more comfortable. You feel more confident. I can certainly remember questions that some of my mentors asked when I was going through this process of kind of figuring out my values and what I stand for and what I know and what I don't know. Just a lot of self-discovery. Just things I was challenged on that were like really hard pills to swallow, and eventually just opportunities to grow and, say, why was I afraid of answering that? Or why did I feel shame in that? Right. And then it all kind of boils down to, what I stand for, what's getting in my way. So conflict resolution. So when conflicts arise, either internally or with others, understanding your values can help you kind of navigate that situation more effectively. So you know the rules of the game, you can strategize it better. you know what you stand for in the conversation and what side of things you can play with there. Yeah, long-term fulfillment, short-term gains that conflict with your values usually lean to long-term dissatisfaction. So knowing what you stand for can help you make choices that offer lasting fulfillment rather than fleeting happiness. And I think I go on to say this later, that this constant state of like fleeting happiness is a lot like wanting, and wanting is just an insatiable pursuit. So what are the consequences? Oh yeah, check it out. My microphone's right there. Perfect. Yeah. What are the consequences of not knowing? Okay. And this is a really good quote that I like. If you don't know where you're going, you'll wind up someplace else. I think it was Yogi Berra. And if you don't know where you're going, not necessarily goals wise, but like what you stand for, what you want to be as a person, you might eventually just kind of drift. And that's one of the consequences of it, is just lack of directions. Without clear values, it's harder to set meaningful goals, to make purposeful decisions. So you might be setting goals based on short-term happiness, kind of jumping from goal to goal, never quite feeling fulfilled. Like I said, always wanting, always this insatiable pursuit. Maybe this next thing will make me happy. Maybe this next thing will make me happy, right? A plastic bag in the wind, kind of floating through life, being blown about. It's one example of this kind of chaotic nature of individuals that feel like life's controlling them. They don't control their own life. Reduce motivation. Like I said earlier, values are a key source of like intrinsic motivation. So without knowing them, you might find it hard to get the motivation, the energy to pursue tasks and goals that might require a little bit more willpower, might be a little bit more difficult, like going to bed on time, like drinking more water, coming to the gym. It's kind of like starting a fire, or trying to start a fire without kindling. Like there's just not enough to like ignite that flame. You don't know what the purpose is or how it links to the things that are truly important to you. And like I said, you might not even know what's important to you. So inconsistency. So inconsistency, when you're not clear on your values, your actions can become inconsistent, sometimes contradictory. One day you're about health, you're motivated, and the next day you're binge watching shows and hammering 2 Tombstone pizzas, right? And it just you kind of bounce back and forth and can't figure out, why the inconsistency here. Increased stress. It can lead to increased stress and anxiety when you're like faced with decisions. You have no guiding principles, and every choice kind of feels overwhelming. It's like you're standing in front of a vending machine and you've got 100 options and one coin, but you've got no reason to choose one thing over another because you don't know what you stand for. You don't know what you like. Poor decision making. Without values to guide you, you're more likely to make decisions based on immediate gratification rather than long-term benefit. The marshmallow test, I think that's a decent example of that, right? Maybe not full align. But they put a marshmallow in front of kids and they said they can have one now or 2 later, right? In that case, they know what the long-term benefit is, and they have this ability to delay gratification and know what they're waiting for. I think that's what I'm taking away with comparing it to this is, I know that what I'm getting later is going to be better than what I'm having now. So it's helping me stretch out or delay gratification. Strained relationships. So if you're not clear on your values, it can be hard to find compatibility in relationships, and that's personal and professional. So if you understand yourself and you know what you're looking for in a partner and what would align and what questions to ask this partner, or as a parallel, like if you understand your business and what your business stands for, you know what you're looking for in an employee. And I think both of those create long-term happiness, less conflict. You get the idea. Reduce self-confidence. It gives you a sense of identity, individuality, self-worth. You're not chasing what everyone else is doing. And I'll have a good example of this, I think, here in a moment. But without them, I think you'll struggle with self-confidence. You'll be more susceptible to external influences. I think about this with my son. How can I, because of YouTube and, all of these other external influences that kids have now, how can I set him up not to protect him or shelter him from all of these outside influences, but how can I help him better understand himself? What does he stand for? What is important to him? So that when he's faced with these external pressures, he can make a better decision because he knows what he stands for. Missed opportunities. When you don't know what's important to you, you're less likely to recognize and seize opportunities that align with your true self. It's like, you're walking past treasure chests because you don't even know you're on a treasure hunt. You don't know what you're looking for. You're, again, just drifting through your life, like a plastic bag or a leaf. Choose whatever drifts through the wind, right? Feedback loop. Let's talk about this feedback loop. And before we get into the feedback loop, let's do a few definitions of some of these things. There's, behaviors. They're the actions or reactions of an individual's response to internal or external stimuli. It's like that tangible stuff you can observe, like I'm eating a salad, I'm going for a walk. Then you have decisions. Decisions are the choices that you make while choosing amongst alternatives, that crossroads moment where you choose one path over another. So I'm going to choose to go to sleep rather than letting Netflix roll into the next episode. And then perceptions are the way we interpret, we make sense of our sensory experiences, the lens that we see the world, how it affects us and how we interpret events, situations, and other people, the story that we tell very quickly when someone comes up to us, right? So I always, this thing from a lot of coaching where if you want to understand somebody's values, you watch their behaviors. And a lot of the questions that we'll go over in a minute, go over behaviors just to trace that back and to find the underlying things there. Behaviors drive decisions, or decisions drive behaviors more appropriately. So, every action we take is a decision, whether it's conscious or not. You don't have to go into work. It's a decision, but the alternative is you'll get fired. You don't have to eat food, but there are alternatives for it. Very often I hear that. And one of my mentors, he'll say, maybe it sounds a little dark, but like the only thing you have to do is die. You don't have to take care of your kids. You don't have to take care of yourself. You don't have to do anything. But you are very strongly motivated to do certain things, right? So, whether it's, like I said, conscious or not, whether you have full or some control over them, or in some cases, no control, deciding to hit the gym instead of like binge watching a show is a behavior driven by a choice. Even habits, which seem automatic, they start off as decisions that get reinforced over time. Okay. Now, these decisions are driven by perceptions. Okay. And how do we make decisions? Through our perception. It's the pair of sunglasses. Like everyone has this unique tint. I'm sure people that are very rose colored, and then there are some people that have shades on and everything's doom and gloom, right? And your perceptions filter the information that your brain uses in those crossroads to make this decision. So we get this too. If you perceive exercise as a painful chore, you will be less likely to do it. And that's just the case of it. My job isn't to force people to love fitness, but to almost like create it like, some people do, but it's like brushing your teeth. It's just like, oh, I just do it. It's just a part of my life. You don't have to absolutely love it and be obsessed with it, right? Yeah. And then perceptions are driven by values. Okay. Our values, the brand of sunglasses, they're ingrained beliefs about what's important in life, like I said before. If health and well-being are truly core values and not aspirational, then your perceptions around exercise and nutrition tend to be more positive, which in turn influences decisions and behaviors and habits. Now, the outcomes in this loop here is, values shape the perceptions, they inform decisions, they lead to behaviors that either reinforce or challenge your initial values. So if I value convenience over health, I'll perceive fast food as a great option. I'll eat it and reinforce the behavior. And to change the behavior, I need to address the underlying values and perceptions, which we'll wind up going over. So these questions to help determine your values, and I didn't want to make this a super long hour-long thing too. I was, one of my coaches was like, yeah, you got to cut that down. So it was a really good idea here. So what do you spend your time thinking about the most often? Where does your head go? That helps identify where your thoughts gravitate, and that can help reveal priorities. What do you spend your time and your money on? And again, we'll get to it in just a moment. It's not about the answer, it's about what the answer means. And I have it at the bottom, the personal space, for instance. I have a lot of books on my shelf, and it's not because I value books. You could say it's the education I get from the books, but I don't value the education. What I do is I value my ability personally to, I'd say, guide my clients toward their goals effectively. Okay, so that's, no one just hangs a picture on the wall, right? I think the saying with that is that, no one just buys a frame and a hammer and just puts it on a wall just to do it. There's a reason behind that. What do you love studying or learning about? What do you get excited? What do you consistently talk to or discuss with others about? You'll hear people say that they're introverts or extroverts, but even an introvert, when you touch on something that they really, really love, they'll open up. All of a sudden, somebody becomes an extrovert. So what goals do you set and consistently achieve? What activities make you feel the most fulfilled and happy? What challenges and setbacks are you willing to endure and overcome? Like the willingness to face difficulties in pursuit of a goal highlights some deeply held values there. And it's not our job to inject values and say, like, I need you to make me care about health. First, we need to start with, well, what do you care about now, and how is health related to that, right? I gave you the personal space example, but another example that just came around today, one of my clients and their significant other, and, they, come home and their significant other notices different things around the house, right? So rather than at work. And I think a good example here is, I walk in the building first thing in the morning, and I make a beeline toward the office because I have stuff to do. I've got emails to answer. I go straight there. And I don't really notice a lot of things out in the gym. Now, if there's something glaring or out of place, then I'll notice it. Whereas Carl, business partner here, he may come in and he notices a ton of things around the gym because that's one of his higher priorities. And it's something that he does, and he does it well. So it's one of those things where, like, you can, where you're noticing things more often and what's important to you. Favorite one here is 24 hours in a day. What do you do? Leave nothing out. So I think that's a really good, perspective with individuals when we start to get to know them. Oh, wrong way. Yeah, that was it. That was it for the day. We're going to go over more next time. The next time, what we're going to do, well, let's go back to sharing the screen here really quick. Hold on a minute here. There we go. Yeah. So what we do with values. And I think these are really important. It's harder to have these conversations in a group class. I mean, we do three things, I think, really, really well. Group classes, which you can have, 10, 15, 20 people in a class, and you have one design. And I think what we lack in group classes, and really any group class, is that a lot of the progress is made with the 23 hours outside of the gym, and conversations and behaviors, and understanding why we're doing those things. So why we're having some of these chats. And then individual design. Individual design is where we design something individually for you. You have your own coach. We have conversations monthly, weekly as well too, if need be. And then we do deeper nutritional work as well too. So it's kind of one of these things where this is what we do. And if it's something that you're looking for, you're looking, I need more conversations around, the 23 hours outside of the gym, then, that might be something that's right for you. But if everything's in line and you're moving toward your goals and social is a really high priority for you, then I think that's perfect. But yeah, I'm going to check if there's any questions. Once again, we'll get this sorted out as we're going through these things, and I'll post when the next call is going to be that connects to this one. But yeah, if you have questions, just email them, Brandon@CrossFitSouthBend.com, or head to, CrossFitSouthBend.com and drop us a line. And, like I said, one of our values here is to help, and we're trying to expand that. So feel free to reach out.